Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Semilet64, and welcome to the RoboCast. I'm joined alongside,
Steve the AmericanKilljoy.
and we're missing Anderson this week because it's his wife's birthday. So, very happy birthday to Taylor out there if you're listening, and hope you're having a nice day. We have two guests this week for the episode 7 review of BattleBots 2019. Introduce yourself, guest number 1.
Hello, my name's Murney, otherwise known as Too Many Milk 8908 on YouTube.
And guest number 2.
Hey, I'm Dave.
Sorry.
I'm Dave Moulds from Team Cobalt.
Hello, Dave. Welcome. First time for you, Anthony. You've been here with us before.
Yes.
I have to talk about the drop zone quickly because you and Steve are absolutely smashing it this season. Like every episode, like you just pull out the stops. I'm like, how the consistency is crazy.
Yeah. It can be fun and crazy and mad, but that's just the way we live.
Absolutely. And obviously, I don't know how much I can talk about Anarchy season 2 yet, but
At the moment.
is it far away?
We just finished filming Battle of the Builders, and I have to say, after this one, Series 2 is going to be absolutely mental because the spinners have went completely batshit. They've literally took out one of the arena walls, which is starting to scare me now. So it's like,
You have to start
Like
upgrading that
real
thing
Robot
to-
Wars.
Yeah, you have to start taking that thing up to like a serious Antweight arena soon. I think it can't be far away.
Yeah, it's starting to get to that point now. After the last fight we had was like, okay, this is getting a wee bit. We need polycarb now. We need to start investing in that stuff.
And obviously, Dave, you're obviously renowned, I think, the world over for robot combat now. You've won over here in the UK, you've won in China, and not quite the US yet, but
Yeah, I'm working on it.
obviously,
We'll see how we can do it. So.
I do have to talk about, obviously, winning Robot Wars. First of all, I have to talk about that a little bit. Obviously, Carbide kind of was the class of the field for most of the show's rerun, if you like. Were you tempted to bring a horizontal again to BattleBots this season, or was it always going to be a vert?
We talked about it. We looked into it, but we just thought we want to bring something that's kind of got a chance, and we look at who else is going and their reputation and what they've done and all this kind of stuff. And basically, we thought if we get drawn up against Tombstone or horizontal that's like a bigger diameter than ours, and it's fundamentally flawed to lose in that way.
Yeah.
Just because his bar's longer, he's going to outreach us. So we could do the thing, driving back into him with the wedge and trying to get up in, but it gets messy. So we wanted to bring something new, really, that we thought would be competitive. And if it wasn't going to be competitive against a certain machine, we could, modify it slightly. Whereas the new machine, new Cobalt's a lot more kind of well-rounded and more modular in a sort of sense, and Carbide was just kind of, this is what it is, and that's that. So we just wanted to bring something that was, a bit more well-rounded and stood more of a chance in the States. So hopefully this one does.
Well, it's been okay so far. Obviously, I want to, kind of talk a little bit about your first two fights very briefly. Obviously, Sub-Zero was, that was amazing. Just pulling it apart, piece by piece was something. Obviously, the duck fight, which I think everyone in the internet's had their opinion on at this point. Obviously, what your, kind of, how do you feel that your season's gone up to this point so far?
Really well. The Sub-Zero fight was a great opener for us. It was kind of like the optimum kind of opposition for us, really. They haven't got the strongest of armor and all that kind of stuff, and we did a good job on that. We were pleased with how it went. So it was a good kind of way to bed the machine in, kind of get a feel for the arena and all that kind of stuff. And we didn't feel it quite well enough for the second fight.
It was.
Knows how that went.
In fairness, I think it was a good loss to have. Really, like I think you won. You had the fight won. You just didn't win it.
Yeah. Well, there's like a thing between winning and losing, because you can lose a match in your first 4 fights and still win it in a way.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because it goes to like a decision panel of who put on the best fights, and if you lose but you put on an amazing show, you've still kind of won. Yeah. In a way, because the point system, it only really matters if everyone comes to the same amount of points and everyone had a boring fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but if you lose but you put on a spectacular, fight doing it, then you've still kind of won in a way. So we weren't really too bothered. I kind of like the fights that we lose the best because you learn more from it.
Sure.
In a weird way. So if you just win every fight and it goes easily, like kind of like our Bombshell one came across on TV, you could kind of see my face after that fight. I was disappointed with it because it just, we won, we got the point and all that kind of stuff, but it kind of sucks at the same time because it was just. Yeah. I know those guys could have done better, and
you want more of a fight, definitely.
Yeah, they're just having a rough season, so it's good to have a good scrap. If you win at the end of it, even better. But if you lose, well, then that's just as good.
Yeah, I think that's a very nice sentiment. Shall we actually crack on with the episode itself?
Oh boy.
First of all, we start off with Death Roll and Quantum, which is kind of like the King of Bots Season 1 final we never got.
Right, yeah.
Because obviously Death Roll loosely related to Great White, which I think, was it semi-finalist in the end in that show?
I think so.
I can't remember exactly, but they went fairly deep into the tournament, and I think kind of harshly lost. And obviously, Quantum is related to Spectre. This is definitely an advert for redundancy on your machines, because obviously you saw the one pulley on Death Roll just snap clean in two. It still had that other one, and it really gave out those amazing hits to Quantum, and Quantum took him quite well to start with, but I don't know, eventually just ground it down. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think like James said at the end of their fight, they got one fundamental thing wrong with their machine, and that kind of messed them up throughout the competition, which is unfortunate. But I'm sure they'll sort that out for next time if they do another one, if there's another season. But Death Roll's a great machine. There's a lot of redundancy in there. They're a great team, and they deserve to do well, really. So. Yeah,
I think you put that quite well. I mean, the fact that Quantum, I think it was fairly not rushed together, but like it was a very hectic time to get it together in time. I seem to remember them starting quite late.
Yeah, so, that's standard.
Yeah. This is true.
Well, it's hard to put your money behind something until the show actually first of all green lights and also says, hey, we want you to come here. So
yeah,
hopefully you've ample time and you've already designed it.
I think that's a risk that some teams take and some teams just won't, because if you look at machines like Hypershock and Witch Doctor and those kind of guys, they've probably started thinking about season 5 already. They'll start developing and all that kind of stuff, and they give themselves a head start at the cost of risking it never ever happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and everyone else who is a bit more wary and doesn't want to spend all that money without the definite this is happening and you're in. There's an advantage to that. So I think the Quantum guys, they're the same as us. They held back till they said, yeah, you're in. And some things can get overlooked. I think that was one of them, really. So hopefully they sort it out for the next few matches anyhow, because there was plenty of tools in the pits, and you got the Tormac guys there, the Lincoln guys. If you need something wild enough and beefing up, then they're there to support you. So hopefully we'll see them back with an improved front end.
Yeah. Anthony? Okay.
Quantum died. Everything's good in the world. Everything's good in the world.
Yeah, Quantum died. Death Roll now at 3-0. I mean, it's very impressive considering, we kind of did our predictions before the start of the season. I kind of had them on the bubble, but just about sneaking in, and I think I need to reassess that one, because it's definitely looking very good for them, I think.
Yeah, I think I had them in. I know I had taken them off of my board once, but I don't know if I actually, because we actually filmed that video twice.
I know.
And then I took time to redo my list, and then I think I put Death Roll back on. I'll have to listen back to it again. I think I have. I thought I wrote the list down. Maybe I didn't update it, but Death Roll's super scary, and with the time that they spent with Great White in China, I think they really got really good time to refine this design, and it's just scary. At 3-0, this thing. I mean, I think it's top 4 at this point.
Same thing.
It's just so frightening. I don't know, all that damage it took from Endgame and still kept running. That was really impressive. So I'm really excited to see who their 4th fight is.
Yeah, I think their durability is probably their biggest strength. Really, the fact that they can just keep taking those hits and keep going is spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
We will move on though from Death Roll and Quantum to Dave and your fight.
So,
obviously, it's a rematch from 2016.
Kind of, yeah. Two completely different machines, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure.
I think there was a fair bit of that fight was actually edited out that didn't get shown for the reason that the fight would have looked just really boring. But the what actually happened, if I speak you through it, was kind of that hit that you see on the show was actually the second hit.
Okay.
So the first hit was we went into them, they went into us, whichever. I can't remember what happened there, but we hit them. They flipped upside down instantly. We jumped back straight onto a shard on the floor again. So they got stuck upside down. We got stuck on the floor, and we were just like, "What the fuck?"
Not again.
So there's actually a rule that I didn't realise because I'm really bad at reading rules. But
it happened within the first 20 seconds.
Yeah, well, it's the first minute. So if you're stuck due to the arena in the first minute, you can restart the fight. Or you can get it's classified as an unstick,
right?
Which I asked the main guys at BattleBots about this beforehand. So I just kind of looked at the judge and said, "Can we have that unstick now?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's fine." Production said, "Can we turn them back over and just start the fight again?" I was like, "Yeah, whatever, let's go." I could have been a dick and said, "No, they're upside down. It's not fair. We put them there." And, but at the end of the day, we thought that's not a fight.
It's for entertainment value as well. Like you got to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So we went again. Same thing happened. Luckily, our wheels actually stayed on the ground for once. But again, because in my eyes, we kind of half lost that because what happened in the first half of the match, and I think we decided to. I won't say what yet, but we looked at improving that ground clearance issue after that fight. So.
I think they should just put Carbide in and just alone, and it's you versus the floor, and whoever wins gets the nut.
Oh, we'd lose.
Stick it back in there, just chew it up all season. Maybe that's why they're replacing it this year. Who knows?
It's a 9-year-old floor, isn't it? Like they've had it since. It definitely needed some help.
But you can see actually in that fight, after I can't remember what it is. I've only watched it once, but I think after we hit them. And they went in the air and bounced back down on the floor. And I think they took another chunk out of the floor again then. And, not to be mean to BattleBots or anything, but their crew worked bloody hard maintaining that floor. And
it's hard to bite the hand that feeds you, honestly.
Yeah, you could make that floor out of anything and it's going to get damaged. Because of what, exactly what it does. It takes impacts from massive spinners all day. So it's hard to make something that is strong enough. And they do a bloody good job of trying to maintain it. But I think they know that it needs replacing now, and I think they are looking into that, which is great for us, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, no one wants to see a fight like, as you say, the duck fight, where you dominate the whole thing and just you lose on a technicality almost. But it's it is what it is. Ultimately, they provide a big old box for you to go and play in. So it's
that was frustrating. Just to get stuck like that. Like going back to what I think Hal said. I listened to your last podcast.
Yeah. So you messaged me, and I was a bit like, oh no.
No. So I just wanted to put that straight. Like I think that Hal said a lot of robots kind of wiggle about when they're trying to get free and all that kind of stuff. Like our wheels are so small and light that there's no inertia there, so it just looks like nothing's happening. You can't see the wheels, but Kenny, our teammate, and one of the arena marshals had to lift the robot up off the shard and put it back down on the floor afterwards. So it was definitely beached. Yeah. But that match cost us, the weapon belt stretched a bit. That's why it was spinning a bit slow towards the end, but it was still spinning up. But I think that match cost us like £3.50 for the new belt. And I think Hal's whole chassis was kind of bent. So
I'll say the pictures. I think it was you that posted them. They were, just seeing like the chunks of aluminium just gone.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, it's cool. That's the main thing.
Dear me. Anthony, anything to add to this fight? I mean, if you can call it a fight.
I loved it. It was short and sweet, straight to the thing. But I don't know what you've got what power you're using to power your disc, but it just.
So you're gone again.
Anthony's internet is spectacular, ladies and gentlemen. What is powering your disc, by the way?
It's just a LEM 170, so it's a pretty standard motor.
Oh, he's back again.
But I think the difference between how we do things and how other teams do it is we're we kind of gear things pretty conservatively. So it's not the fastest spinning weapon or anything like that, but it spins up pretty, quick, and everything's thought out from a reliability point of view. So everything's mounted in a way that it can take shocks all day long, and it should be pretty damn reliable. So we've never had like a mechanical failure as such. So one thing for us really is, it's all right having the most powerful, biggest spinning weapon in the world, but like if everything supporting that is, not made correctly, then what's the point in even going? So I think reliability and getting those repetitive hits is the main thing for us.
I think that's what Mahal said when we had him on before. He said that the fact that it isn't the most powerful, it's just that it keeps going and just does not die is the worst thing for it. But
I think being relentless is the most annoying thing for your competitor. The person that you're going against, because if they can't kill you, then you've already won the mental game. You just got to keep going. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on. We'll move on to Gemini and Tantrum. Now, this was good fun. I really enjoyed this. It wasn't necessarily the best fight ever, but it was good. I really just, the back and forth between them was quite good. You got to see Tantrum's punching weapon, which was great, and it's just, it's so small. How did they make it so small?
It's magic. I don't know what else to tell you.
Witchcraft.
The fact that thing is about the same size as one of the Geminis and twice the weight is just blows my mind.
That thing is solid. I had a couple of looks at it when I was at filming, and that's probably one of the strongest machines I've ever seen.
Really?
I think the whole chassis is made out of like 3 billets of aluminium, just bolted together with huge ass bolts, and then like wrapped in AR or hard ox steel, whatever you want to call it. And it'd take a lot to break that machine.
Yeah.
I was on display in Orlando, and I was up next to the flipper version of it, and it's crazy how small it is, but it is thick.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony, I think you said on the drop zone that the one of the Team Panic guys is on Gemini. That's on the black Gemini, wasn't he?
Yes, he's driving the black one.
Yeah.
So he is. But this is the first time him driving heavyweight. So it's interesting to see how well he does, in the next couple of fights he does.
Yeah. I don't think he did that badly, considering, it's obviously the scaling from heavy to and beetle and such is so different, like, kind of, to adapt. It's very, I don't know how to describe it, because having driven one of each myself, it's kind of like, it's almost fluid with a heavy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a lot more, you can take your time a lot more with where you're positioning and such. I think he drove quite well, to be honest with you. It wasn't the worst fight.
Yeah. Considering how it got completely sideswiped at one point
early on, yeah. I mean, I say it was just a good back and forth, really. I enjoyed watching Tantrum carrying Gemini around the box. It wasn't the ultimate destruction fest that you normally see, but like it was good. I enjoyed the back and forth. It was.
Is Tantrum's part still in the arena? Like
the fist.
Oh, the fist. Yeah, is it still there? Because like they never really. I thought they were going to do like, oh, it's still here. It's in the corner waving at people.
That would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been good Easter egg to keep that in there, wouldn't it? But I don't think so. Anything more to add? I mean, it was a fairly decent result, really.
Experimental weapons, man. I mean, it's something completely different. It just didn't have the bite for me.
Yeah.
It seemed to be missing that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really liked Tantrum. It was something different, and it drove well. It's well armored. It's a strong, reliable machine, and I hope he kind of improves on that.
What happens if he takes Tombstone on again?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, as you say, I think it drove a lot nicer than it did last year. It kind of struggled a little bit last season, I found. I think this year it just seems a lot more balanced, really. I think that's the only way to put it, really. But yeah, I think that's pretty nicely summed that one up. Lockjaw and Duck.
This fight.
This was very good, very good. I enjoyed this. Obviously, Duck's still recovering from Dave's beating that it gave it a few weeks ago.
I'm pretty sure, you'll have to ask someone off the team, but I'm pretty sure that was the spare duck.
Okay.
What?
This match.
So he had 2 ducks.
He's got 2 ducks, and there's 2 of the, is it Marvin, the spinner?
Oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
2 of those as well, so I think he just swaps the the receivers and the speed controls. He's probably got spares of those as well. But he had like 4 complete robots when he turned up. That
Insane.
guy comes
Lucky had 7 frames. What's that?
Yeah.
I
mean, I can see why, because there was
It's a TV show.
Yeah. If you're gonna fight 7, 8 times, you're not gonna be able to. Well, realistically, you're not gonna be able to do it all on one chassis. But
Well, we had Tim on recently, and we heard his philosophy on this. So
yes, yeah, absolutely.
I think if your whole design idea is to drive headfirst into spinners until they break, you've got to come with spares.
Yeah.
And he came well prepared.
yeah, absolutely. The fight with Lockjaw, for me, I mean, 2 excellent drivers. Donald really, really showed his class in this one. Like, just even when he was struggling with the weapon not working, I love the little sidestep and duck run straight into the screws. That was brilliant. Just small things like that. It was just excellent. Causing damage to the front, obviously, it's going to happen. If you're running headfirst into a spinner, it's going to damage yourself eventually. But, Lockjaw, when I first saw Lockjaw last season, the Season 3 one, it was kind of, for me, having seen the previous 2 seasons, I know obviously he won X amount of championships in the classic days, but Lockjaw hadn't really transitioned well into the modern sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of thought Season 3, it's a kind of a mid-tier, it's not doing that well. It struggled against Endgame. It struggled. I can't remember who else it lost against early on. For the life of me, they don't beat Bombshell. Anyway, they're kind of struggling early on, and then ever since that Desperado run, it's just been on a wave of good form. It's crazy. The Tombstone fight. Okay, sure. If you're against Tombstone, you're always going to be challenged. It just seems to be delivering every single fight now. I don't know. Obviously, Dave, I don't know how much you know if he's changed something in particular to this season or.
I think he had a few internal changes. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, but I think maybe rather than saying he's getting more luck this season, is to say that he had less luck last season.
Yeah.
I mean, Lockjaw's a really nicely designed machine. It's very compact, and I'm a big fan of the way Donald does things. Like, I just think his designs are some of the best out there, and they're very much, kind of toy orientated. They've got they just look cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like these machines. Personally, I like the brushy, flippy one the best. I can't remember. I guess that was still called Lockjaw, but I think that was just so nicely designed. He did such a nice job on that, and the new one's a lot more competitive, obviously being a spinner. But hopefully we see a lot more of them anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say a good loss for Duck, really, considering it's 2-0 at this point. They can't really complain that they lost this one, really, because I think Lockjaw was just better on the day.
Yeah, but again, he put on a good fight. So
yeah, this
is it a loss? Is it a win?
Yeah.
You don't really know.
Yeah.
Would you say that their loss is better than, say, your win against Bombshell, for example? Really, it's kind of It's one of exactly. Bit of a toss up, isn't it? Really. Anything more to add?
I mean, Damage won the day, unfortunately. I mean, that and Lockjaw, I think, had better control. Trying to figure out this match on points. I think that's what swung it. I mean, Duck kept going at it, but I mean, it's all about who has a more active weapon and who's doing more with it, I guess. I saw a message somewhere where it's almost like Duck needs a little bit more of a beak on that wedge, because you have to be so precise with the size of that beak to get it in the right places and be able to use your weapon. I was surprised he didn't use the little hairpiece that Duck has as a little bit of an axe.
Gabe was going crazy with the weapon this time, wasn't he? He was just whacking it with any. I mean, I know that's what the kind of mohawk thing on the top was kind of for. It's meant to be like an axe point, but he went crazy. He was just firing that thing everywhere. It was. I mean, it's good to watch, but maybe lost him control points. I don't know.
Possible. You never know what the judges see, and the thing is, with the judges, and I think the next fight will describe that.
Yes.
Good segue. It's the fact that maybe a little bit of uncontrolled use of your weapon might hurt you. So we'll see.
Yeah. So
we'll see what to say about this.
As you say, my dog started barking. Excellent. As we said, Steve, very nice segue onto our next fight, which was SawBlaze and Blacksmith. We finally get to see the dragon head attachment for SawBlaze. I want to know what obviously you three you actually think, because for me, I think the decision was correct, but it was, I don't know, it was very close. It was a great fight again. These two, they always put on a good spectacle. Blacksmith, they don't always necessarily have the best, machine, and they don't cause the most damage, but they always just keep going. And I think they were a bit unlucky. I don't know. It was tough for me to call, because I think had the judging criteria had been Robot Wars criteria, I think Blacksmith would have won. But because damage carries the weight in BattleBots, I think that's why SawBlaze won it. I think. I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell me. Hit me up.
I'm pretty biased because I fucking love SawBlaze.
It is fantastic. It is a wonderful machine.
He's black and green, so he's got the right colours for a start.
Winning colours.
He's got a saw disc similar to ours, and he's got green fire. What's not to like,
Yeah.
And it's different. It's there's no other machine out there like that. And Jameson can drive he's just a very good driver. So
what you're saying is that's your tag team partner then for next time, yeah.
Good, yeah.
BattleBots Extreme, maybe. Who knows?
It was a close match. It was definitely a close match. Blacksmith did really well as well. It was very, very close. But I think the moral of that is just don't leave it to the judges if you can.
No, never.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a chance for it to go wrong.
If it goes to the judges, we always just assume we've lost. I think Al always has a bad time with the judges as well, so it sucks to be him for that. But I wouldn't like to call that one. It was a good fight.
It was a great fight, and I think again it was a bad loss to have for Blacksmith, really. But it was very close, and so I think Jameson, you could see the relief on his face afterwards. He was just like you could just see he was not sure about that. I think Al definitely thought that he'd won it. It was. Oh yeah, big time. It was just, I was gutted for it. It's great TV to see, punching the air and going around, loving life, and then for him to end up on the losing side, it's very, it's a hard lesson for him to have that basically. But it's just the tolerances are so fine between winning and losing. It was a split decision, rightly. I think
as well. If you're getting scored on damage, it's very hard to be fair to Al, it's very hard to win with an axe.
Yes.
Unless you've got old school Robot Wars or like the Judge where you're punching holes in people, which it just doesn't happen now with everyone having hardened armor and stuff like that. It's very rare to see that. And it's a bad design choice anyhow, so you can see why people don't do that because you just end up getting stuck. But it's very hard to win with an axe unless you do go for the knockout. So it was unfortunate for him, but it was a great fight.
Yeah, it was a great fight. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have trouble, and I love Blacksmith. I that's the thing. When you see this thing fight, it's just all spectacle, and it's just so much fun to see. It's so durable. It doesn't die. But yeah, without a truly damaging weapon, a lot. I mean, you can look at his stats, and if you don't count the quantum quote unquote judge's decision, 8 of his fights have gone to judges' decisions now out of his 11. So it's.
I think he's won one. I think 1 or 2.
2.
Yeah.
And it's tough. The thing is, the more you flip a coin, the more times it's going to land on maybe the side that you don't want it to land on. It's tough to make when you add the human element with judges. You're always it's always scary. So I've had a taste of this going to events myself, and you do not want to have it go 3 minutes and be like, oh, I hope I won. So,
I think as well, a thing that's particularly with the judging criteria this year is the fact that Blacksmith would have had to win all the points other than damage, because SawBlaze was always going to win on damage. It has the big vertical spinner. It's gonna cause problems.
Yeah.
And I think Blacksmith got to win all the control points and all the aggression points. It's not an easy thing to do. I think obviously they were close, but it relies a lot on the other team really messing up, and I think SawBlaze, they were struggling with the disc early on. Obviously, you saw later in the fight, Jameson kind of got the hang of things and was a lot more controlled. But
see, for me, I kept looking at Blacksmith and seeing that he was panicking a lot, like kept hitting the axe, and the axe wasn't hitting anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's, for me, if it was judge's decision that way, looking at it going that you're not hitting anything, where with SawBlaze it was just one hitting one side and then going around hitting the other side. Like, that was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty much the best way to look at it. Really, ultimately, SawBlaze had the more controlled hits and when they mattered.
And it's got the good color scheme as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a winning color scheme.
Already
exactly.
pretty important. Jeez.
Absolutely. We'll move on from SawBlaze to Blacksmith. Obviously, SawBlaze getting the win there just about. And well, there's no just about the next fight, really, is there? Really, it's
No.
Railgun MAX is something else. I mean, poor Shellshock never really got going, but yeah, Railgun MAX is, as Stephen quite rightly put it on the drop zone, is a unit, and that's the end of it, really.
Yeah.
How good is Railgun MAX, Dave? I mean, like from your point of view.
It looks pretty good. It's very solid. It's like got some big thick blocks of aluminium, similar to kind of Minotaur kind of way of construction.
Yeah.
Probably not as strong, but I think their brushless system that they've got on their weapon is quite complicated. I think they've got like 4 different weapon motors like powering that thing. So when it's going, it's pretty savage. But getting all that to work together in unison and be reliable is a bit of a challenge. But I'd like to see them do well. It's nice to have a new team from China come over and show something that's competing with all the American teams and doing well. So
we got 2 plucky Chinese teams this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think so far they've been very good. Obviously, they Kit-Katted Mad Catter. And
Mad Catter. That was a massacre.
It really was. I mean, this wasn't much better. I mean, the first hit they took off the tooth, and then second hit flipped him over. Third hit, there goes the lipo. See you, mate.
I felt so bad for Shellshock.
I know.
Captain, he's like, bollocks.
It never really got a chance to show anything, really, did it? It's a shame, but I mean, credit to Railgun MAX. They really, they were efficient and they were brutal, and they needed to.
I've seen their featherweight in action, and then this is exactly what the heavyweight is. It just mimics everything the featherweight does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been. I think it's turned a few heads. A lot of people kind of thought they might do quite well, but I don't think they thought maybe as well as they have done.
I know this sounds bad, but I actually want to see it go up against Cobalt. Not to want to get in destroy. I just want to see like who can destroy, like beat the life of each other, but keep on going. It feels it's going to be a good scrap if you ever did fight each other.
Yeah, it'd be fun. We fought Chinese teams before, so.
I was going to say, yeah, you obviously won in China, didn't you? So.
Yeah. I think a lot of the Chinese teams are very underrated as well. Like, they've improved so quickly. If you compare like their rate of evolution over in China compared to the UK and America, like, it took us,
it took us forever.
Yeah, we were so slow, but it's just like the Chinese all over, really, isn't it? They're just so industrious that they just bash stuff out so quick that it's just good.
Yeah. So do you think if there's another season, will there be more Chinese teams coming over then?
I've got no idea. That's the team and how many, loads of shipping and flights they want to pay for, I guess. But
sure. Yeah,
it'd be nice to see some more,
Yeah, I think, as you said, they've kind of gone so far within, say, 5 years compared to,
the rest of the world.
They're competitive within 5 years, whereas everyone else has been competitive within 20. It's kind of ridiculous, really.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing I thought of when we were in China, I'd see like there was like a Chinese version of Minotaur, for example, and you'd look at it and you go, that's bloody good, but they haven't thought of this. And, there's always like some little details that come with experience. Yeah. And they've basically gone and evolved from having that 5-year experience gap that we've got ahead of them, and they've just crushed that in 6 months, and they know what they're doing now. that's kind of the scary thing. And I think more and more teams are going to learn off each other and get those small factors that make a machine reliable. And once they've got that, then they're definitely going to be forces to be reckoned with over in the rest of the world. So
yeah.
And poor Shellshock.
I know. I mean, I do want to talk about Shellshock quickly. We didn't even get to see its defensive mode sort of thing that they had, but
it's so complicated.
It's a shame.
It's like there's so many things going on underneath that shell, and
I didn't even know they had Omni wheels.
Yeah, I can't believe they had Omni wheels, and now I understand why they want to have their wheels kind of retract into their robot, because I think it would just slide like a hockey puck across the arena.
Yeah.
But and they got electromagnets that would hook it to the floor, and we didn't get to see any of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it was a harsh draw on Shellshock, considering what Railgun MAX did in its first fight. I think it was kind of maybe they got undersold by the producers. I don't know, but it's kind of one of those things. Really, you can't really.
His paint job was nice. I give
it they got the West Coast Choppers guy to do that. It was awesome.
Yeah. It was nice. Green again, always a good colour.
Definitely.
Exactly.
We'll move on to the main event, which was Tombstone and Rotator. Now. This is definitely a coupon buster if ever there was one. Rotator, it's been obviously well documented that they've really had a tough time of things starting up. They had a twisted disc, I think it was they had at the start of the year or something. They broke something fairly major early on.
Didn't their whole frame tweak?
Yeah, and the fact that they managed to get it all together fairly quickly. 2 fights. Okay, first fight they weren't ready, but the second fight they were, and they just took hit after hit, and I can't believe it managed to just keep going for so long. It was crazy.
It was a really great testament to show that Tombstone can be beaten with the right design.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that oh man, the Ice Wave fight last year, and Ice Wave wasn't really up to speed for a lot of that fight with that blade, but the couple of shots that it did get on that wedge gave me a little confidence to say that Rotator had a decent chance of winning this fight if it just got the right angles in. And man, this was a brawl, like a backyard brawl with no rules.
For me, this was like the fight that I was expecting Lockjaw to give Tombstone at the start of the season with the angled plow, and I think I have to say massive credit to Victor Soto for one going in there and just be like, okay, we'll take you on, we'll do it, and then to go and win. Like, for me, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think this is kind of like almost a coming of age for Rotator. Like they've kind of been knocking on the door of like the big boys for a while now. Last season they had a really good season, but this is like their first big. We are an elite team. We're here to win essentially, rather than just put on a really good show.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
You know what was missing from that fight?
What?
It would have been so cool if they'd had some footage of everyone's reaction in the pits.
Oh, you definitely. That would be great.
Everyone was just watching it like, what the hell? And then when it burst into fire, it was just like it was a good atmosphere at the time, and fair play to those guys. I'd love to know what actually went wrong with Tombstone. I know they're tough chipped and it went out of balance and that kind of stuff, but it'd be interesting to hear from Ray and just see what actually caused the fire.
Yeah.
Because obviously, the vibrations have shook something loose, but it'd be nice to know what actually went down. So
I thought it was lipos.
Like it shook a lipo loose and then it shorted on the frame or something like that. I can't imagine, man.
Eventually it was everything, really, wasn't it? It was all on fire at the end of it.
Tombstone was a mess after that. I think it took him like 2 or 3 days to rebuild the thing. So.
No way. I think that's probably one of the biggest rebuilds he's had to do, probably since the start of BattleBots has come back. Really, I think for me, I think the way that Tombstone went about it was all right. They did everything they needed to do. Just ultimately, they were just unlucky that something went wrong internally and just burst into flames. I think had they just survived the last couple seconds, judge's decision, for me, I think they won on damage and they probably would have swung the decision. I think it would have been close, but I think it would have been very harsh on Rotator to not win the fight when Tombstone's been on fire for like 2 minutes for the whole fight going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked how Ray summarised it at the end of the match, actually. He kind of said, well, he beat himself, so...
Yeah, exactly. He's that destructive, he even beats himself. I also really liked Victor's reaction.
Oh, he was nuts.
He was... can you blame him, really? You go out and beat Tombstone and, you kind of think, you want to see that passion. You want to see, someone losing their head that they've just, beaten arguably the most destructive robot there.
Yeah.
And I think, Rotator really put on a good show, and they, even losing their weapon, they didn't need it in the end. I think their plan was always going to be, brick wall Tombstone until it died, and die it did, and that's the end of it, really. Brilliant driving on both drivers' part, though. I think they both did a great job. Didn't really. There's nothing more that either of them could have done more.
I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that this was the main event so far. This is the main event of the year so far.
Oh, yeah.
I think just based on the build up and then the way it happened and the fire and the fact that Tombstone ran for 90 seconds or so after it was still on fire somehow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was great, and credit to both teams to get that, and they're both at 2-1. I think they can both be fairly happy with that because obviously Tombstone, let's be realistic, it's always going to be knocking on the door of the top 16, and Rotator, I think that's pretty much almost guaranteed in there. I think even if it loses its next fight, it's going to be tough to not put them in after beating Tombstone. So
it's Tombstone's first regular season loss.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy to even think about that.
Yeah, it is. That is crazy when you think about it. The fact they've had such a prolonged, successful run. I mean, obviously a few close calls along the way, but yeah, it took
Rotator to come up against Cobalt.
Wow.
See, that's the thing with Rotator. Rotator, for me, yes, it just beat Tombstone. It needs to prove to me that it can survive a vert. That's the thing, because Witch Doctor took it out in season 2. Light Force took it out in season. I mean, those are two very good machines.
Yeah.
But I mean that's its weakness. So hopefully maybe they can.
Maybe we'll see a rematch with Witch Doctor and Rotator. That would be cool.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Obviously, I know you can't say due to NDA reasons, Dave, but would you have liked to have fought Rotator?
Yes. We'll fight anyone.
Yeah.
That's what we're there for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd rather fight Tombstone.
Oh, please tell me.
I mean, surely at this point, okay, because you are, probably obviously didn't win the last series of Robot Wars, but at the time when you went last time, you hadn't won by that point, but you were knocking on the door. UK champion, you've won in China.
Yeah.
Tombstone's obviously the big boy over in the US.
Yeah.
Surely it writes itself.
Yeah, you think so? We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
We will.
They're very careful. They're very careful about speaking of other events on the show. They're like, oh, they won a UK event. Just say Robot Wars. I mean, just buy the license and just say the word.
Didn't they have Sir Killot's head in the pits? Maybe that was like last season.
They actually had the original Killot's head in one of the production offices that we weren't meant to go into.
No way.
So you brought it out.
I snuck in there for some reason or other, and I saw it on a desk. I was like, "What the hell is that thing here?"
Good.
It followed you the whole way there.
I think someone presented Greg and Trey with Killot's head on a plaque, and I don't know what happened with that, but there's probably another story there somewhere.
Greg and Trey, if you're out there, let us know. It'd be great to hear. Obviously, that wraps up the 7th episode. There is one more fight to discuss, which was the Axe Backward and Texas Twister fight, which was the bonus fight for episode 5, because, Science Channel's a week behind now. Good stuff.
Kurt, my heart breaks for you, man.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's a shame that, again, Axe Backward's really having some teething issues. I know it's hideously complicated in terms of internally, but Texas Twister actually put on a very good show, and I think, considering it was a bonus fight, I thought it was quite good, to be honest with you.
I'm sad about one thing though, poor wee Spitfire.
Spitfire got killed by Texas Twister itself, didn't he?
It got by its own teammate.
God damn. Spitfire's had some rough times, hasn't it? I mean, it was with Sub-Zero last year, obviously now getting hit by its own teammate. We're looking for another home again next year, who knows?
Maybe me. Send it to me.
Yeah. It's Texas Twister at 2-0 now. I think they've done fairly well, considering last season Hypothermia didn't really do that well. Obviously it wasn't optimized, I don't think, for BattleBots these days.
Yeah.
And I think Texas Twister is a lot more like it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how long it can last. So he's using the 48 volt amp blowers on his weapon.
Yeah.
Which is what we used in Tungsten in China. And they're not a good choice of motor. So with Tungsten, every time we went in a fight, we knew we had 1 minute 30 before we blew up 2 motors.
Oh, really?
Holy hell.
Yeah. So in some of our fights, we didn't even turn the weapon on for the first, half a minute of the fight, because we knew we had a minute and a half of fight time. So it'd be interesting to see how that lasts.
Yeah.
But it's a good robot. I do like it. It's nice to see him turn up with something and be competitive.
Yeah.
It can be like an angled cutter and then also an undercutter if it's flipped over. So it's
good design. It's
very different.
Yeah, it offers something new to the table, doesn't it? And I think they've...
It's kind of like Surgeon General, the old series of BattleBots in a way.
Yeah,
it's got that kind of feel.
Yeah, and I think that so far they can be fairly happy with 2 fights, 2 wins. You can't really ask for much more than that. Obviously, Axe backwards. Again, my heart bleeds for Kurt because he's put together a really nice machine. It's just not happening for him.
He put up a good show. Even when he was damaged, he even said, "No, hit me again." So he's there for entertainment.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, exactly. I think that pretty much wraps things up, really. I have to say, Dave and Ante, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, if you fancy coming back, by all means do.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Okay. With that said, I've been Sam at 64.
I've been Steve the AmericanKilljoy.
2 Penny Milk.
And Dave Moulds.
And we'll see you next week for the 8th episode of BattleBots 2019. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.